All right, everyone. Good Monday morning or evening, depending on where you're watching. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today. If you guys don't know me, my name is John or Johnny. Either one goes. If you guys don't know how I trade or how I approach trading, that's gonna be what the fun part of this session is going to be is teach you guys the way of the ABC. And if you guys don't know what ABCs are, to make things quick, I will be going over examples, and pretty much 95% of the TA we're going to be going over today is mostly based off of ABCs. But I figured if you guys are new to ABCs and how they work, I'll be able to kind of run through them quick, show you guys what they look like, give you some examples, show you how I trade them, and we can move forward from there. Before we get too far into this, if you guys have any questions, whether you're here on the YouTube or Twitch end or here on the Discord, I will be keeping an eye on chat. And if you guys want to type in a question in the actual text chat on either or, I will be paying attention to that as well. So please feel free to ask any questions you might have. I'm going to be doing my best to keep an eye on everything. So yeah, so without further ado, let's get started. So first things first, what an ABC is basically we're looking to identify trends in groups of threes, either to the upside or to the downside. All right, so if that's an ABC to the upside, and we have an ABC to the downside. And from there, we're going to be looking for basically price to establish and push past the pivot of the A. So I'll show you guys what that looks like on both sides. So initially, once you get let's do the short setup first. So pretty much when we're looking for a short setup, we're looking for an uptrend and an actual pullback, a larger separation in trend. And from there, we're going to be looking for price to continue and actually put in a higher high past the previous A. Once it does that, this setup is now complete, and we're actually only going to be taking a short position once price crosses back below. Right. And from there, that's going to give us a indication that price can reverse and can potentially start a new trend to the downside. That's the easiest way to explain the short setup. The long setup is the exact opposite. All right. Pretty much what we're looking for when it comes to the long setup is we're looking for a downtrend, a uptrend, and then we're looking for the new trend or the C wave to start actually extend past the pivot of the A. All right. From there, once we get that cross below, we're looking for price to get back above, and we're going to be taking long positions as price continues to remain above that pivot of the A. That's the easiest way to explain it. Like I said, I've been going over multiple examples throughout the entirety of this stream. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask them away. And so when I start trade, or how I usually start off my analysis, is I like to look at the overall larger time frame and see what can happen, see if we can find ABCs, and see if we can find possibilities of where price can reverse that or continue, depending on which setup we're looking at. The way I like to do things is I like to start off on a fresh new trend. So in this case, we're going to start off from the end of the bull market, the beginning of the bear market. From there, we need to ask ourselves, is there an ABC? All right. And to me, in my opinion, there is a nice clear ABC setup with a nice with a nice set of ABCs between each set of waves. Now, this doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it just kind of adds a little bit more of validity to me. But something I love to see. But regardless, that is going to be our larger ABC. Now, the next concept we're going to be going over is something I don't really have a name for this yet, but basically what can happen, especially with smaller time frame ABCs, is that we can get a ABC, in this case, to the downside. Right. And what can happen is we can get an initial reversal in our favor. Right. And from there, you can actually find resistance or support, depending on which direction, and we can actually continue down. And what ends up happening is this ABC actually becomes part of a larger ABC. Now, like I said, it mostly occurs on the smaller time frame, because pretty much all the smaller or all the larger moves that we see here are basically made up of ABCs. So this can happen on larger time frames. It's a lot less common, but it definitely can happen. So when I talk about variations of what could be going on, just keep in mind that even though we do have an ABC here, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're in the clear, that this is the bottom, this is it. Um, One of the things I'll be going over, which actually let's go ahead and get out of the way now, is when we're talking about what's possible, what could be going on. All right, this ABC could actually be part of a larger A. From there, we can actually get a. You can see we got a bounce to a possible ABC. All right, so you put in a high, a break a trend to pull back, and an extension higher. So this potentially could actually be a larger end or an end to a larger wave here, which we'll discuss in a smaller time frame. And from there, we do have a possibility to extend lower to complete a much potential larger ABC. Now, all we need to complete that setup is a lower low past the previous low around 15.6K. Now, to me, this is a worst case scenario. There's other variations we can talk about, but this is something that you guys got to keep in mind of what could be happening. This actual set of waves that we've gotten here could just be a retest of higher resistance levels before actually continuing lower. Now, I don't really know exactly how much lower it's going to go past the 15.4K mark. Anything is possible here and how I do things. I'm not too worried about exactly where it's going to go. I'm just looking for the structure to complete. And once that structure does complete, I'm primarily just looking for a reversal back above, and hopefully we can get a good trade or possible trade the possible bottom. If this ends up being a shallow push past the previous low. In case we do not get all the way back down to 10K, like some people are or were expecting. So that is the kind of the bearish option. The most bullish option is that this ABC is done. All right, we put in a to a B to a C, reversed, and got back above the pivot of the A here, which is off of this ABC within the C. All right, and from there, we just have to look at what's going on here. In my opinion, we do have a nice A to a possible B, or A to a B to a C. Now, the C could be done here. We could be pulling back, or we could just keep pulling back temporarily, and eventually we're going to keep making a push higher, eventually breaking higher levels of resistance, which we'll talk about once we zoom in a little bit. The middle of the road option is that we are actually going to end off of this ABC, but we're just going to pull back momentarily. So we are going to pull back a little bit deeper, maybe go ahead and test 19.5, which is I know a lot of people are talking about a CME gap there. There's also a good area of support in that region. So we definitely could be going down to test 19.5 without actually putting in a new low and then continue. That is kind of the middle of the road option that I have for BTC at the moment. So with that being said, now that we have a better idea what could be going on the larger time frame, this is when we can go in and actually focus on our tradable time frame that we actually execute our trades on. Now, time frame is mostly about perspective, not time frame itself. The most important thing you need to be able to see is a majority of what you're looking to trade. All right, if we're looking at this as an entire section of price action, we need to be able to see it. It all depends on your monitor size, resolution as well. If you have a high resolution monitor and its monitor's a little bit bigger, you're going to be able to get away with a 30-minute time frame. Currently, I'm using a 1080p 32-inch ultra wide. So to me, a 2-hour time frame is able to basically fit in the entirety of what is going on in price action. But feel free to play around with the time frames based on your actual monitor settings, and we can talk. And you can focus on your TA and your analysis on there, and possibly look for executable trades. So when we're looking at this and what is going on off of this trend. All right, we have an ABC, which actually turned out to be a larger A to a B to a C, which is something I talked about in the one of the concepts I talked about earlier in the stream. And once you get rid of that, you can see we're left with one nice ABC here. What I'll do is actually get rid of the orange lines here and focus on ABC here. All right, and remember, once we establish an A, we have a B, we have a C. We have a pivot that price needs to get back above and reclaim back under in order for us to take the trade. All right, and if I go, it's like a 1 hour, just to kind of show you the trade itself. You can see we actually got a cross above, and we did enter on the way back down. So I am currently short off of this setup here. Now, I take these setups, right, in anticipation for much larger potential price moves. All right, what was one of the variations I talked about earlier in the stream is that we can possibly go down to 19K, if not even lower down to 20K or even down to 15K. Sorry, that's a more extreme option. But when I take these trades, and this is something I'm going to be talking about as I go through possible setups, is that you'll see that when I take trades, I'm aiming for much larger potential trend shifts. All right, I'm not focusing on the littlest areas of support. To me, I'm trying to make the most out of the larger positions, especially when it comes to the more macro positions. I would consider this a much larger potential macro short. To me, this is very important. So I'm going to take advantage of this and ride this out as much as I can. If we get a reversal, all right, or if we just end up putting some sort of support at a higher low and continue higher, that's fine with me. I'll be going over another position I have here, which is going to be a ABC long, right? And this is, we are playing into the idea that this could be a possible reversal point, or sorry, a possible continuation point of the larger trend. All right, so as long as price action is above that previous A, once we cross back below, that is going to be a larger area or larger long position for me, which we did cross below. And we did reclaim. So I did take this trade. I believe I got stopped out only once, but we're still in it, and we're actually looking to test higher. So when we talk about the trades, we talk about where price can go. The next thing I like to do is look at the local areas of support or resistance, depending on which direction we're trading, and look at possibly where we can look for price to go towards. All right, and I'll be going over both sides here. So I feel like the longs positions are going to be a little bit easier to cover. So first things first, we have to reclaim back above the previous high at around 31, about 31,061, which is the previous, depending on which exchange, that can vary, but the previous high here. Once you can get above that, we kind of have to look back a little bit and see what the areas of resistance are. All right, based off of local highs, off of the previous trend, the next stop we can go ahead and test is around 32,413. If we can break that level, we ultimately have one, maybe two areas of resistance we can consider. 43K is a good pit stop, but ultimately I think the larger resistance we have to go ahead and test if we are going to continue is around that 48,240. So for me, for this long position, I'm absolutely looking to test around 48K. Now, I'm not looking for exactly 48K. I might front run it a little bit. Hopefully we can get a setup to take profit off of, but that's the main idea I have for the long position. Now, for the short position, we just basically have to look for supports below us and talk about where price can go ahead and test. To me, in my opinion, the most important local low, or one of the most important supports we have to first consider is around the 25,875, which is the pivot of the actual previous A. Right. Once we break that, we do have to consider 24,760 or 765, and from there, I mean, maybe you can make an argument for this support here, which I'm not really the biggest fan of, which is going to be around 23,967. But ultimately, I am looking for a larger swing to the downside to hopefully test 19.5. But we have to take it level by level. So at the end of the day, The goal is to try to take advantage of the larger trend in price, depending on which direction we go. And I put myself in a position to where, regardless of what happens, I have a higher probability of being right, just because we waited and actually took the larger pivots, or we took trades based off of larger pivots that actually matter. So to me, this resistance level is key. If we cannot hold below, I'm definitely going to be expecting higher. Same thing when it comes to the long position. If we can't hold the previous area of support or hold around 24,765, that's going to be a significant area to where I think we can test lower. But that's pretty much it when it comes to BTC. That's the game plan going forward. What I'm looking for. Those are the positions I'm taking. If you guys were active in my section of the Discord here on David Tech's Discord or on the general chat, I just posted updates for you guys. I let you guys know the trades I was taking, and I give you guys a little bit of a heads up to where if you wanted to take this short, you could have. If you're looking to enter now, I think we have to wait for a retest. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the larger time frame analysis for BTC. We're going to move on to Ethereum. Like I said, if you guys have any questions about what I just talked about or anything I'm talking about, please let me know. I'm going to do my best to keep an eye out on chat. And we're going to move on to Ethereum and talk about what could be going on there. So first things first, when it comes to the larger time frame analysis on Ethereum, the first thing we have to look at is the larger potential macro setups. I'm just going to lead all this. We're going to start off from the beginning of the bear market, end of the bull market. All right. And to me, I see a nice clear A to a B to a C. Now the question is this the beginning of something or the end of something? If this is going to be the beginning of something, we have to look at this as a possible A. Oh, sorry. I actually hit the wrong button. As an A, we're looking for an A, B, C to a possible B. All right. And then we're going to look for lower for a worst case scenario. Now, remember, this is a most bearish case scenario. To me, we would need to see a break below the previous pivot in order for us to actually consider in this ABC or this bear market to complete. And in order for us to do that, once we get that lower low, we need price to cross back above, possibly retest and continue higher. That is the bearish case scenario. Something to keep in mind is that within this B wave, we do have a nice ABC, which is important to remember when I go into a little bit more of a more zoomed in time frame, talk about what could be going on here. All right. And then the middle of the road option is that this ABC was actually the bottom. All right. We put in an ABC for a possible A. We're looking at this as maybe a possible B, maybe test lower, and then a continuation higher for a C wave. I'm not too sure. I'm not too focused on where it can drop down to when it comes to visiting areas of support, but we have to keep in mind the levels below and see where price can test. We'll talk about that on when we zoom in a little bit. The most bullish option is that maybe this is an ABC, but maybe this B wave is all we get, and then we can look for higher, possibly test higher areas of resistance. That's the most bullish option out of the three. So keeping that in mind, we can go ahead and once we understand the pivots of what actually are important, what matter, we can go ahead and zoom in a little bit. So from what I mentioned earlier, we do have an ABC off of this larger setup. All right. To me, this is a much more macro potential setup here. And I am currently short off of this setup. So as long as we're below 2030, that is going to be a macro area to short, and very key level to keep an eye out on, and hopefully we can get a continuation lower based off of that setup. Or at least retest areas of support. If we're looking to see where this can go, our first area to go ahead and consider as a good support area is probably going to be around 1735. And then from there, if we fail that as support, we continue lower. The next area is going to be around 1624. And from there, there's not really much in between till we get to maybe about, you can make an argument for about 1459. If not, the one I'm actually looking for is around 1368. And then from there, ultimately, I think the most important macro support level to consider if we do continue down is around 1072. If 1072 doesn't fail, we do have some support around 995 to about 1005. That's like a good pocket area. But ultimately, 865 is the lowest low I'm looking for price to test. And from there, that's going to be the larger potential targets for this swing short if we are going to test a lot lower. That's an option that we talked about, and that's one of the options or one of the actual ideas that I'm trading. Another idea that we have is that this is playing into the more bullish side of things. We do have a nice ABC within this downtrend here, right? And so for me, as long as price puts in that ABC setup and can remain above around 1738, that's going to be an important pivot or an important bullish pivot for me to keep an eye out on. See if I can get it. Okay. So as long as we're above that, I'm looking for higher when it comes to areas of resistance. One of the most important things to keep to remember is the previous setups and pivot, which is around 2030. And then from there, 2152 is going to be an important area of resistance. And once we break those, I need to go back a little bit further and look for possibilities of what could be going on. Ultimately, the most important resistance that I see throughout this entirety of this downtrend or this previous downtrend is actually going to be around 3585. And in my opinion, there's really no significant resistance. So I really don't see a reason why ETH can actually go ahead, or why ETH shouldn't be able to retest higher. And to me, that's going to be a much larger position I'm looking for. And as you can see, similar to BTC, regardless of what happens, I'm going to be taking the larger entries and looking for a potential swing higher or swing lower, or most importantly, an exaggerated move in either direction. And yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to Ethereum. I really don't have anything else besides the two setups. I'm not looking for any other trades. There's nothing else that really sticks out. We can move on to another coin. Let's do ADA quick because I do want to talk about ADA. All right, so for ADA, let's look at the macro first. So for me, based on ABCs and in my opinion, all right, if we look at this entire downtrend starting from the beginning, in my opinion, we have a very nice set of ABCs here. It's not the cleanest setup in my opinion, but to me, this is considered an ABC to an A. All right, which is actually part of a larger A wave. We have a nice ABC for a B, and then a swift lower low to a C wave. So for me, as long as we're above that previous low, which is around 2391. Let me just get the low just to make sure I got it right. I'm pretty sure I got it right. Yeah. Yep, 2391. So as long as we're below that, as long as we're above, once we put in that lower low, that is going to be a potential bullish position for me. For me, what it comes down to is when we're looking to see where this trade can go. Ultimately, I mentioned before, we have to look at areas of resistance. We're going to go into that once we zoom in a little bit further. But that's going to be the ultimate bullish setup, or the macro bullish setup, in my opinion. There is one more possibility we can look for. I need to zoom in a little bit further in order to illustrate this. So we do have a ABC. All right, we took this short. If you guys took this short or were able to catch this setup, congratulations. This was a beautiful setup. We were able to get ahead of the actual altcoin dump between, I think it was 88 Manic, Algo, and some other coins that I haven't mentioned. But we were able to short that way ahead of time. So that was a fantastic setup. One of the things I am looking for, and one of the trades I'm currently in, all right, is that we do have an ABC. Maybe this isn't done yet, right? We have a larger A to a B. Maybe we need to continue lower in order for us to possibly talk about this setup completing. So in this case scenario, this is going to segue us into the smaller time frame. All right, we do have a ABC short position here. All right, so I actually took profit off of this setup once price came back to retest that level, and I re-entered until price came back below. So I did not play the initial entries. I believe I got in off of this setup here, or this part of the price action here. So I did get stopped out once, and I will be re-entering again. So let's mark that out. I am using a little bit more of a larger stop loss for this one. I'm using about 5% just because these altcoins have a tendency to swing more radically. So for me, I'm going to be looking for a lot lower. Hopefully, if we can continue, that's going to be a decent risk to reward ratio trade, depending on how far this goes. But that's going to be a larger potential short position, as well as I'm also holding a position from the previous low here, just in case we are going to continue to rise to the upside, potentially test higher areas of resistance. So that's going to be a nice trade regardless. I'm looking for a larger pivot. So we have the potential to continue lower, potentially put in one more low, which is going to be around that 2151, which I'll mark out for you guys. But besides that, those are the two trades I'm looking for. Those are the two trades I'm playing. Hopefully we can get a continuation, or actually a continuation in either direction. I wouldn't be upset with either or. We just have to wait and see. Let's see. AH44, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right. Any other altcoins? If you guys want me to look at something, please let me know. Gotta take a moment to take a sip of water. All right. I have an idea. Let's do BNB. Oh, Supreme Cat. Supreme Cat, I see you typing. Good to see you too, my friend, AH44. Can you talk about OP? Yeah. The OP USD. I'm assuming Binance USDT. All right. On Bybit. Cool. Yeah, I could definitely do that. Okay. I think I got the right one here. So let's look at the macro first. All right, so the larger setup looks like we did put in a ABC. All right, so it looks like we extended pretty past farther down the A. One of the first things I'm going to be looking for is a possible ABC extension of the previous, or sorry, off of this larger C wave. This would actually paint it as still an ABC. But the larger separation and trend has me thinking that this is part of A to B to C. Okay. All right. Yeah. So this is right. So we do have the possibility of this happening. In my opinion, this is the most bearish case scenario. We need to come back down and put in one more lower low. Especially if everything else is looking bearish. This is one of the ideas that I have. This is going to be a major bullish pivot for me to keep an eye out on. So to me, I would mark that out as a potential low. For the bullish option, let's say we're done here. This is an A to ABC. This looks like one larger potential A wave. So when I zoom in a little bit further, A, B, C. That's an A, B. All right. So it looks like this is going to be a larger A to an A, B, C to a B to a larger C. So it looks like we're getting close to that entry. So if you want to try to take that, remember, just wait till we get across lower, then reclaim that level. That's going to be a possible larger bullish idea, or ultimately this could be a lead up to a possible short. All right, so we can go ahead put in that initial A wave. We're putting in an ABC for a B, and maybe get one more push higher to a C. Just keep in mind, remember, we need to get a reclaim of that level. If we do not reclaim it, that's going to tell me a different story. And if we push straight through and continue to push down a lot further than this previous local low here and not respect the setup, I'm going to be more inclined to look for the bearish count, which I mentioned before. But just wait for that entry just in case. But if we put in this bearish ABC setup, this is going to paint a possibility for a larger potential setup like this. Something like that. If not, if we put in a higher high and just keep going, we can still consider this a B, but it's going to get to a point where if we just start breaking resistance levels, I'm going to start looking at this as a potential bottom. So we'll just have to wait and see. Most importantly, it comes down to that key setup, which I mentioned here before. If it respects it, we can get that lower low and get a cross back above. That'll be fantastic. But if we just fail and we just break straight through and continue downwards, I'm going to be leaning more towards the bearish count. So if you want, I'll mark out these pivots for you. So it's going to be the most important level is around 88.21. The next level, which is the previous A, is going to be around $1.25.29. And then ultimately the high is going to be around $1.50. So just keep those let's keep those levels in mind and just look at the larger picture, see how the setups can form. Let me know if that helps, Supreme Cat. Let me change this to green so I don't confuse you. All right. He's still typing. Let's give him a second to type. If anybody else has any questions, please let me know. I'll give him a moment. Yeah, man. Thanks a lot. No problem, my friend. No problem. Hopefully that helps. We'll just have to wait and see what happens here. All right. From there, we covered our main analysis for our main coins that we're trading, as well as we took a look at some other alts. Unless you guys want me to look at something else, please let me know. If not, we're gonna move on to traditional markets here, going over the DXY, S&P. Talk about what could be going on in the near future. Kind of give us a better picture of what is possible. But if no one else has any questions, I will be going ahead and moving over. All right. So for the DXY, important thing to keep in mind is two things. One, we have a very large ABC short setup on the DXY based off a 2-day. Now this is a multi-decade ABC. So just keep in mind this pivot does matter. Just understand that when it comes to these larger pivots, all right, this is more of like an area. All right. Think of this more as a zone, not an exact level. Price is going to respect it, but it might not respect it exactly. So just keep in mind that we can go ahead and definitely bounce around in this region until we make until we made an actual decision, or we can separate from that zone. But if I zoom in a little bit more, talk about what is possible on the 4 hour, you can see we have a bullish position here. and we're still currently above it. So this position is still valid. So the DXY still has room to go higher. We could be looking at this as a possible A to a B wave to an extension higher for a C. And maybe we could talk about this being part of a larger ABC. Something like this. All right. Once that is complete, all right, one of the things we can look for is a possible reversal. But that definitely is on the table. The more bullish option for the DXY is that we're putting an A to a B to a C, and this C just keeps on extending, or the C puts in a much larger uptrend. It can still turn into an A to a B to a C scenario, but the higher we go up, the less probable that is. So it's still possible regardless. Or we could be putting in something like this, to where we put in a larger retracement and then continue higher. That's definitely possible. But we'll have to break out of this zone or break out of this range in order for me to be a little bit more confident in that. So to me, as long as we're between 105.97 and $100, that's going to be an important thing, important range for me to keep an eye out on. Depending if we break lower, that can definitely show that we can be putting in one more lower low before reversing, or if we put in another high above this ABC, which is another option which I didn't think about until just now. That could be a possibility as well. We can go ahead and reverse off of that, and this could be part of a larger A to a B to a C. So same outcome, just a little bit different of how the structure might play out. That's still entirely possible. But just keep those areas in mind. The DXY is looking decent right now. We'll just have to wait and see if that continues. All right. The S&P. All right. So you can see we actually crossed back above that resistance. All right. So this is not an ABC, but this is a local. This is a local high or local area of resistance we have to go ahead and consider as a possible area to look for a reversal from. All right, we do have an ABC here. The bullish case scenario is that this is it. We're going to continue higher. But if that is the case, something to keep an eye out on, and something that I'm a little bit worried for, just in case this does happen. I'm not going to start talking about this until we get higher or until we get closer to the all-time high. But if we break the previous all-time high, we do have a possibility of an ABC like this to form. That's going to be a very, very, very scary setup if we do not make a significant push to the upside. All right. If we just put in a slightly higher high and reverse, this downtrend could just be part or one area to look at as support on the way back down. That's going to be a much larger potential bear market in play if that is, or if this does actually play out. But we're not there yet, so I'm not too worried about that potential setup. The bearish option, the more medium-term bearish option, is that maybe this is the larger A. We're looking at this as a larger B. In order for us to confirm this larger B, I need to see price get back below the previous A of this structure, which is going to be around 418.20. Right? So let me just clear out some of these lines for you. So if we can't hold above that resistance, the next stop is going to be breaking below the previous A, which is around 418.45. From there, then we could talk about a continuation lower. If we are going to continue lower, I would need price to break the previous low around 348 to form an ABC like this. If this happens, I'll be less inclined to look for a much larger bear market. Even though this does entail more downside, I think there's going to be less blood in the streets if we take this route versus if we do the ABC top and then reverse. So this is probably the better out of the two. If we are going to be bearish, just keep in mind the bullish option is that we just pump straight through the all-time high and just keep going. So just keep an eye out on those levels. Those are the most important levels to keep an eye on, in my opinion. If you're looking to play the S&P, that's how I would play it. But until then, we just have to wait and see. Let's do gold and silver. So gold, you can see we put in a larger ABC here, and we're currently back below the pivot. So as long as we're back below the pivot, we could be looking at 1803 as an area of support. This could turn into a larger potential A to a B to a C, which would lead to price breaking the all-time high. I'm not at that point yet. We'll just have to wait and see if price can respect this trend and see how it respects this trend. But ultimately, if I go back to a 2-day, we have a larger ABC here. And in my opinion, this is a important one to keep an eye out on. Like I said, it could lead to much larger potential downside if we do get a cross back above that previous high and we don't continue to just pump straight through it. So at the moment, there's really no other bullish option for gold besides going back up to retest. I don't see any executable trades that you can make on gold. But that is the primary setup I'm looking for. Let's see. I see Supreme Cat typing. Just in case he has a question, I'll take a moment to take a sip of water. All right, I'm out. See you later, Johnny. Thanks for your support. No problem, my friend. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Hope to see you soon. But yeah, thanks again. All right. So that's it for gold, silver. Okay. So silver put in this larger ABC, but we did put in an ABC long position. So we're currently above that pivot. So this could be a larger potential A to a B to a C scenario. All right. If that is the case, we need to break the previous high. And then from there, if we break the previous high and don't make our way back up to $30, this is going to be a larger reversal to where I'm targeting lower, possibly $19, if not 17. But just keeping that in mind. All right. Oh. So let's do. All right. And so there is a bullish setup. If you want to take a possible long position on silver, 2264 is going to be the region to go ahead and test, or at least try to take a trade off of. But pretty much it. I don't see anything else that's too significant. And then we're going to do Vlad's favorite, BMW. So if we are, so we're looking at this from a larger perspective. All right, we have an A to a B to a C here. Let me clear out this one. So if we can get back below $100.72, that's going to be a bullish pivot, a bearish pivot in a possible short position. But if you are looking to trade this, that would be a good setup. If not, I think 124 is in the cards because there's really no area of resistance, especially if I look back at the trend. There's a big gap here, so I don't see why BMW cannot put in one more higher high. But if that is the case and BMW does do that, all right, we do have a possibility for a larger A to a B to a C to form. So once that happens, that's going to be a larger potential pivot as for a good short position. But we're just not there yet. I really don't see it. Was it the wait and see as we continue to go up or down? At the moment, those are two key areas to keep an eye out on. And those are the only two positions I'm willing to take on a stock like this. All right. I think it's pretty much it. I'll let you guys, if you guys want to ask any questions you might have, or if you want me to take a look at something else, now's the time to do so. But yeah, if you guys don't have any other questions, I think it's going to wrap up today's session. Supreme Cat, welcome back. Long time no see, my friend. Johnny came back to ask one last question. Ask away, my friend. No worries. Let me know. Let me know what you got. I'll give you a minute to type it out. Can you please take a look at XRP short position? Absolutely. Let's see. So for XRP, looking at the larger picture first. All right, we had this short setup, which you got a retest of. The next larger support or the next larger resistance to go ahead and short off of is at 58.60. But when I zoom in a little bit further from, let's see. Oh, he said from 54.53. 54.53. Talking about this one. This one's Supreme Cat. Let me know if that's the correct one. Yes. Okay. So if you are shorting this, I would. This is what I would consider. If BTC is going to be a little bit more bearish and if we are going to push down, one of the things I'm looking for as a potential setup is something like this. A to a B to a C. So I think price has at least the potential to get back down to that pivot. Remember, it's support. We got to take it level by level. At the moment, you pretty much need price to get below this area of support and then this area of support. So if we can break past those two, that's going to be a significant setup. The one thing I would consider, Supreme Cat, is if, since you're in a short from up here, if we do put in a lower low off of this setup, I would consider hedging. The only reason why is that this is a good short position. Worst case scenario, if you take this long position and it fails to go higher, all right, this gives you some cushion to protect yourself. Now you are going to lose a little bit if you do take this trade and lose. But remember, you're not. Hopefully, you're not risking too much. You're gonna make up for it, and some when price gets to continue lower. That's the only thing I would consider. But so definitely, if this was me, if I was in your shoes in this position, I would hold on to this. Because if this is going to be a larger reversal point for XRP, all right, remember, when I take these trades, I'm looking for very, very large swings. So for me, that level 40.67 is going to be a significant area of support. If not, I'm going to be looking for 34.73. And ultimately, I mean, we can go all the way back down and test lower if you want to. But I don't know exactly where it's going to go. So for me, I have to take it one level at a time. But the ultimate macro ABC is going to be going back below 28.65. So if you want to try to hold on to it and aim for that, that wouldn't be a bad plan at all. Maybe on the way down, if you can get some sort of, let's see if I can try to illustrate this. All right. I know there's a lot of lines here, but this would be an A to a B to a C, which would be one larger A. All right. A B to a C. If you can get a good short continuation setup off of the B wave, that would be an ideal area to take profit and re-enter. But remember, this hasn't happened yet. You would need a lot more price action to build itself before you can consider that. So then you would take that, move it over here, and then take another trade once you get back below. That's the only way I would exit that short, is if we continue lower, come up, put in an ABC retest. Let's see. Should I try 5 wave count downward? No, I wouldn't. The only reason why is because you can come up with a lot of different variations here. I don't want you to get too confused and psych yourself out. Just take it level by level. Remember, if 45.37 fails, the next area to test is 40.67. If you want to hedge yourself here, you can. You don't have to. Just me personally, I would. I would also hedge myself down here as well, because this could turn into a larger ABC. And then we can reverse from here. So just keep that in mind. Those are potential hedge positions. If you want to take hedges, worst case scenario, Supreme Cat, what you can do is take lower risk. So for example, let's say you're using, I don't know exactly what you're risking. So I'll just make an example. Let's say on this short trade, you're risking 2% risk. Take this trade down here and risk 1%. Now you're not going to make as much money, all your money back, but you're going to make enough to cover your stop. So worst case scenario, you'll cover your stop if price does continue to get back above and push higher. And you'll make a little bit more if price extends to the upside. So that way, if you're concerned with losing money on the way down, just use less risk. Like I said, you're not going to make as much money if we do reverse, but you are going to cover your stops and make a little bit more. So it's up to you on how you want to do that. Me personally, I like to use the same risk across all my setups, regardless of what bias I have. But you just don't know what's going to happen. So if you take the setups, if you want to use less risk, if you're scared or worried about, losing money on the way down, that's fine. Me personally, I'm not worried about that. But those are positions I would consider. Or that's how I would consider handling those trades. Let me know if that helps, Supreme Cat. Cool, man. Thanks again. No problem, my friend. No problem. Hopefully that helps. All right, guys. If anybody else doesn't have any questions, I'm gonna go ahead and I think wrap it up on that note. I'll give you guys the moment to gather any thoughts you might have just in case. Let me pull up. If you guys are interested from learning more from me. I do my own YouTube channel for those who might not be aware of who I am, who are new to the channel. Let me just go ahead and switch screens. Windows. Let me just do that over here as well. Present, share screen, window. So like I said, if you guys don't know who I am and are interested in learning more about me and how I trade and how I do things, please feel free to check out my YouTube channel, which is Johnny Crypto. You can look up Johnny Crypto ABC. Doesn't matter. Just look for the little astronaut dude. But yeah, that's pretty much it. My links will be also in the description of this video if you're watching on the YouTube and Twitch end. I do appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. I will be here. Fortunately, I usually do this on Wednesday, but my schedule's changed. I had to do something. I won't be around on Wednesday. So I figured I'd get this in on today instead of missing out. So be on the lookout for Wednesday around the same time next week. I will be back. So hopefully we can give you guys a market update. Hopefully we can see what's going on. Hopefully the market wants to do something more significant. But until then, thank you guys. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, David and Vlad, for having me. I really do appreciate it as well. Until next time, be good, be safe, trade safe. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.